We're 19 miles from New Orleans and completely surrounded by water.
On Saturday, March 17th, 27 students, faculty members, and chaperones embarked on a service learning trip to New Orleans to assess the progress and aid in the restoration of New Orleans to its pre-Katrina state. I'm Davion.
I'm Jen.
I'm Dan.
And we're from Wright State University, and we're here on our first day of service.
On our first day of service, we were sent to sort Mardi Gras beads at the ARC, or the Association for Retarded Children.
At the ARC, our mission is to, empower people with intellectual disabilities.
Although sorting Mardi Gras beads wouldn't normally seem like a charity effort, it provides a large amount of this organization's funds. The ARC accepts donations of used beads from local businesses and sorts them to be resold. Not only does this provide funding for the ARC, but it is also an environmental effort.
On Tuesday, our group was separated into 3 separate projects. These included wetland restoration, food distribution, and gardening at a community medical facility. These projects allowed the people we met to convey to us their personal stories about the storm and to share how they responded to the evident and drastic needs of their community. At the Common Grounds Health Clinic, we were given the opportunity to speak to Lynette and to gather her personal post-Katrina testimony. She had stayed behind with her family and was trapped in her house for days. This tragedy, however, was only one of many to come for her and her community. In our interview with her, she elaborated on the injustices left in Katrina's wake.
So if you just take a minute, really, like I said, just close your eyes right now and imagine your world without food, clothing, and shelter, and light stuff that you take for granted of, with your mom and your folks tell you, cut that light off, because I got to pick. Well, imagine no lights and gas for days. So, yeah, we were discriminated against, and people did look at us like, we were like in a third world country. But what about them who were standing in the lines too, looking for the same thing we were looking for, trying to survive off, but you didn't call them looters. You didn't call them refugees. You didn't shoot at them. But we were like public enemy, number one.
At the Lower Ninth Ward Village, the local community center, we were privileged enough to get to talk to the executive director and creator of the facility, Ward Mack.
Well, this center was kind of created because of the devastation of Katrina, but more than that, it was kind of finding ways how we can embrace disaster differently. So the things we do here is not about the Lower Ninth Ward or New Orleans. I don't want to see another community in the world go through what this community is going through right now. We could either embrace our problems or we could let it go like it's been going forever. The minute they say, well, I want you to help us get it done, well, over 50,000 volunteers have been through this space and worked throughout the city. That's my posse. I call my posse up and say, let's go fix you guys to be here. Almost 7 years after Katrina, you guys are my heroes. You guys are my heroes because it don't matter what your task is while you're here. You guys are sending out a ray of hope that is actually saving lives. So I want to humbly say thank you for being here and being a part of it. I have embraced this disaster opposed to wanting to forget this disaster. I'll never forget Katrina as long as I live. And for one of the main reasons is because it allowed me to find my purpose. I thought God had a personal vendetta against me. I lost 14 antique cars. My dream house took on 4.5 feet of water. And we come up in a capitalist society. We kind of believe we are what we have. Well, what happens when you lose everything overnight? When you've been taught that you are what you have? I didn't know how to deal with that. I think the first year, definitely about the first year and a half, I was struggling with that. And so now I could tell people the best thing ever happened to me was Katrina. It took all my things away, and I learned the value of people. The most important thing in life is people, not things. What I share with people today is enjoy things. enjoy things, but never ever let them become your life, because you could lose them overnight.
A highlight of our trip was the opportunity to meet Leona Tate, one of the first 3 African American girls to be integrated into the all-white public schools in the South. Many of us had never imagined meeting someone we had read about in our history books.
The morning of November 14, 1960, I and 3 other first-grade girls entered the doors of 2 New Orleans public schools that had been closed to children who were not white. I was 6, and in one moment I impacted the dynamic of an entire city and the nation as a whole. It was a day that I will eternally be etched in my memory as one that completely changed the future of education for all minority students.
I'm a state licensed investigator by trade, and my specialty is equine cruelty law, and I also work with child abuse and child neglect.
On our last day in New Orleans, we spent the day with Lori Wilson. Lori started a rescue ranch for endangered horses where she has underprivileged children come to the ranch to do their homework and take care of the horses. This encourages the kids in school and to better prepare them to go out into the world.
Although Katrina caused numerous devastations to civilians' lives, homes, and families, hope was not lost.
When one walks down the streets of the French Quarter, you can still see all the rich cultural heritage as if it had never left.
Katrina killed many, but it did not kill the spirit or the pride of New Orleans.
For the week that we were down in New Orleans, we stayed at Camp Restore, and on the first night that we were there, one of the leaders told us that their mission is to restore faith, hope, and community. And a lot of the rebuilding and physical things have already been done, which I don't know what we all were expecting our projects to be, but one of the main things that they had us do is help restore community. And that includes doing gardens, helping talk to people, and just being there and listening to the stories and help bring back the community that they had pre-Katrina.
I believe the most important person I met was probably is the guy we didn't have video on. It was actually the guy I went to wetlands with. To me, he was the most important because he was doing it not for the blacks, not for the people, but he was doing it for the Indians that nobody really talked about because their land was devastated completely, pretty much underwater because of Katrina, because the levee broke right on their land.
So what you're saying is everyone made it a racial issue, but then even still there were some races that were not included.
Yes. Because no one, throughout the whole media, you never heard anything about the Indians or the Native Americans.
And what did they do for the Indians?
We planted trees to help their environment grow better. These unite as a country to help each other through any type of disaster and not categorize people under as refugees or, kill each other for food. We should all work together to get what we need to help each other.
I think on this trip, one of the most important things we all learned was the importance of community, because a lot of the restoration down there has been done. The actual cleanup, the tear down, everything like that, the building. A lot of it's been done. There's still stuff that needs done, but a lot of it's done. It's the communities that need attention. It's the community centers that need help.
In reflecting on our week in New Orleans, it was a great experience for everyone that went. We really learned a lot about what's been going on the past 7 years down in New Orleans and how much they've grown and how much there still has yet to be accomplished down there. In talking to many different people, we learned all their different perspectives on the social injustice issues that we talked about in class. Some of the most impactful people for me was a lady at the food pantry that we talked to, and 7 years later, she's still as angry as she was the day it happened. She believes all of the response was racially motivated, and that's why none of her friends or her family were helped, and it was all black versus white. But when later that day we talked to another man, the leader of the Lower Ninth Ward village, Mac McClendon, he said that Katrina was the best thing that ever happened to him. So we, and all the people that we talked to, We heard many different stories, and for both ends of the spectrum, it was really eye-opening to see how they saw Katrina in their lives.
One of the people that impacted me the most when we were down in Louisiana was Lynette, who works for the Common Grounds Health Clinic. She told us her story, and she was trapped in her house during the storm, and she had a stroke and her teeth got knocked out. And so she was eventually evacuated, but she came back, and that was really powerful to me because it takes a really brave person to come back and realize and see a need in their community and to address that need after everything they've been through.
Someone asked the wetlands guy if it was worthless rebuilding everything because scientists say within 100 years everything in that land is going to be underwater anyway. And he said they can't even predict the weather 5 days from now. I'm not going to listen to some scientists who say they can predict 100 years from now. And I think that was really good because you can't just because a scientist says something, you can't just abandon a project and just leave people, stranded just because they say New Orleans is going to be underwater within 100 years. So, yeah.
When we were at the horse farm talking to Lori, she had a very different role in the aftermath of Katrina that most of us probably would not have thought of. She was going out and gathering livestock that were in the way of rescue crews getting to the people that needed help the most. I believe that she gathered up 60 horses, on the highways, on the roads, and everywhere in the wake of Katrina and brought them back to her stables and everything. So that's something that I would have never thought of that would have been addressed right after Katrina. She brought horses, she brought cows, she brought everything back to different areas so the rescue crews could get to where they needed to go.
And it's amazing because you never think of these things until you experience them.
Yep.
The thing that impacted me the most in New Orleans was getting to talk to the individual people who were actually there when Hurricane Katrina happened. Because you can watch as many videos, as many news stories as you can, and it's never going to seem as real to you as if you went and actually talked to the people. So you can tell how people responded was just completely different than you'd think. Some people were happy about it, and other people were angry, and they're still angry about it. And so I guess what I learned in New Orleans was that people respond to disaster differently, and as a country we need to stand up and be unified and help the people that need it the most.